The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
All right, welcome to Getting to Know You. My name is Joe Nash. Today we're talking to Tom Lindsay. He is one half of the Lost Radio Rounders, the other half being Michael Eck. They are the area's, or I should say New York State's, acoustic American roots duo. So welcome, Tom.
Welcome. Thank you.
They played at our library one time. Tom is here to talk about Lost Radio Rounders. They're going to be doing the third Friday charity concert series this fall. They are going to be Friday, September 15th, Friday, October 20th, and Friday, November 17th. They're all going to be out at the Hamilton Union Presbyterian Church out in Guilderland, starting at 7 p.m. They're going to be having special guests, and no shows will be repeated. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yes, no songs.
And each concert is for the benefit of a different charity. And so why don't we start with your group, you and Michael, the Lost Radio Rounders. You started out as a group called Gospel Train. Why don't you tell us the kind of music you guys play, and if you can define roots music, because you laughed before.
Well, I know. Well, I'll start at the start. Michael and I played together in a rock band in the 80s, and he went on to have a long career as a singer-songwriter and released a whole bunch of albums of his original material, and I stepped back from music and was doing a lot of photography and things like that during those years. And we finally came back into each other's orbit and sort of hit it off again musically, and we decided to do an acoustic duo. And that acoustic duo was called Gospel Train, and it focused on gospel blues, street corner blues. It focused on spirituals and folk hymns and things like that. Not so much what you would think of as traditional sort of European.
Not sacred music.
Well, you know, it was the way we sort of defined it was having to do with heaven and hell, God and the devil, sin and redemption.
Okay.
And so we did that for a couple of years. And our point, starting in January 2007, I should say, we did that for a couple of years. And our point was we wanted to do something that was a mix of music and history that told the story of the songs and told the story of the performers and the old recordings. And a lot of these recordings are from the 20s and 30s. And so we enjoyed that very much. But then we decided we wanted to do other themed programs about other things because we liked the whole way we put it together. And so we dictated a name change, which came in August of 2009. We became Lost Radio Rounders. And now what we do for libraries, museums, historical societies, historic sites,
You'll basically play anywhere, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, you won't find us very much in bars, but other than that, civic groups. So we have a whole slew of these acoustic programs that are infotainment, a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tell people, if you go to the website, it'll be on the screen, lostradiorounders.com. Some of the themes they have when you see them. The American Song Bag, which is based on Carl Sandburg.
Based on a Carl Sandburg folk collection, 1927.
You have one called Lincoln and Liberty, Songs of the Empire State, a tribute to the Carter family. You actually have one called The Gospel Train.
We still do that program for people.
You have one called Scoundrels.
Yeah, oh, that's great. American Badman Ballads, okay. Scoundrels. People don't ask for that one enough.
And I've said from seeing you guys, not only we be entertained, you, Michael and Tom, they tell stories, and you'll learn something about American history. In fact, one of their CDs right here, it's called Politics and Patriots. It's campaign songs most of them are from the 1800s. Some you go up to
into FDR, up and then FDR.
So if you think our political times are back then, there was maybe some of the scoundrels.
Oh, there was some name calling there. But just to go back to the core of it is, it's no matter what program we're doing, it's pretty much based in American roots music, which is this mix of country, blues, bluegrass, spirituals, vegetables, everything sort of put in a blender and with a distinct American flavor. So I think, you can have long discussions. That's why I laughed about.
Well, is roots music, is it always acoustic? Is it ever?
No.
Okay.
But I think generally that's the first thought people have is they first go to acoustic. But Michael and I wanted to do an acoustic thing. We'd done an electric thing together. We wanted to do an acoustic thing, and because all of our programs with these songs and with the stories we're telling behind them they're vocal forward. You can hear the lyrics. That's the whole thing, is to tell the story with the lyrics.
And then would Michael define roots music differently than you, or?
Oh, Michael is such a music historian. You could be here for hours.
Okay.
So count. Thank your lucky stars he couldn't make it today. Sorry, Michael.
All right. So this series you're doing, and I'll mention it again. It's going to be at the Hamilton Union Presbyterian Church in Guilderland, 2291 Western Ave. Friday, September 15th, Friday, October 20th, Friday, November 17th. So if you're seeing this after one of those, but before the others, you can still go.
The third Friday of each month,
Okay.
September, October, November.
So this is your 8th year doing this. What's the idea behind this? And
Well,
some of
the way it started, we went to, when we were gospel trained, we were asked to do a show at the McCownville United Methodist Church, and on Western Avenue, down near the base of Northway. And we went and did a show for them, and they had us play in their old chapel, which is this lovely little room that used to be the core church. They now have a much larger sanctuary. And it was just wonderful. We enjoyed the people. We enjoyed the venue. It's one of the most beautiful sounding little venues in the capital region. And so we thought, how can we make this happen again? And we talked to the pastor, and we wrote a letter to the board and said, hey, why don't we collaborate on a series? And the terms of the series were, as they stand today as well, we're going to do a 2-set show for you there. It'll run 7 to 9. We'll bring in some of our friends to play some music. It'll all be, again, this music that is heaven and hell, sin and redemption, God and the devil. We will let you guys choose a local charity that the money can go to. And the host church supplies some refreshments, coffee and cookies. And that organization that's benefiting on the particular night will send a representative in and have a table and have flyers. And in between the 2 sets, we'll talk to the audience, say, this is what we do, this is where we do it. We'd love to have your money, but we'd love to have you come volunteer for us. And so as far as the types of organizations, we've done these shows before.
Let's mention the first one, September 15th. The charity is the Capital Region Family Promise.
That's one of the few organizations we've done shows for now, and this is twice, because they're really interesting in what they do. We've done stuff for homeless shelters before, but this is an organization that tries to keep homeless families together. And one of the things about that is it's my understanding that in a lot of shelter situations, the men have to be separated from the women and the children, and so they do their best to try and keep families together. So that certainly sounded to us like an admirable thing to try and help with.
And in October, it's going to be for the benefit of Wizard's Wardrobe Tutoring Program.
Now I'm less familiar with that, but from what I understand, they were chosen as the others were chosen by the board over at Hamilton Union. But what I will say about them is they do tutoring in the South End for elementary school students, and that would be very close to my mom's heart, because during the 70s she taught down in the Albany South End, and she taught remedial math and reading. So I'm sure she's looking down and saying, "That's good on you."
And then in the November shows for the benefit of the Capital District Women Veterans Program, Inc.
Now that's another one that's new to me. But again, the only thing that we said to the churches, as far as choosing things, is that our comfort level, our pocket is food pantries, veterans organizations, children's organizations, seniors organizations, things like that. So I'll be learning some new stuff that night. I will be learning some things about what they do. But that's the beauty of it. These organizations are small enough and local enough that they come over and they have a little heart-to-heart for 10 minutes with the audience. And like I said, it isn't even so much about getting donations for them. It's about maybe getting people to volunteer and help in that way. And the other thing I should mention is that all of these shows are free of charge. There's a donation basket there, but it's free of charge.
Okay.
And you know. So.
All right. So one thing you were telling me earlier today when I was talking in the library, and you just mentioned it again when you started. What is it? Is there something different when you play in a church or a chapel?
Well, I have to say,
Because I know you played everywhere, going back to your rock and roll days.
Part of the the thing that the germ that started the program was how wonderful the old chapel at McCownville was. Just an intimate space, an acoustic space where you didn't need amplification to any extent. And so I think the fact that a lot of the older churches are very live acoustically, you sound better singing there.
Okay.
You hear yourself better, you sing better.
Do you have do you feel differently when you're playing in that?
Well, I do, but I feel very good when I sing certain songs in certain places. That's certainly true.
Yeah.
And even if we're playing in a library, if there's a certain song that we're playing that day that really connects with the audience, you feel it. And of course, all our performances, we want people to sing along. We want people to be involved. I mean, it's a participatory thing. So that's another level that you get in the churches, is that people are used to singing along in church.
Yes.
So it's another level you get there.
So one of the thing about these 3 concerts is you're inviting special guests, friends of yours and Michael. Now,
old friends and new friends.
Okay,
There's
new
some.
friends.
One of the key things about this is that not only do I get to play with some people who I've never performed with before, even though we may have been in the same musical orbit for a couple decades even, but the other thing about it is that those performers will invite a mix of performers who may not have ever played with each other either.
Well, that's what I want to ask you. Like, how are some of these people going to fit in with the roots music? Because I see in the 3 concerts, you have members of a funk band. You have you have a soprano that does classical music. You have a harmonica player,
Celtic.
So are they all going to fit into the roots?
Well, that's the beauty of it, because it's sort of like front porch music. We don't do a lot of rehearsal, but we do enough rehearsal to get people at their comfort level. So with Giacomo,
so that's
the 3 members in our October.
This is the October 20th concert. Okay.
3 members of Giacomo, with a funk band that's been around forever here in the Kappa region and released a number of CDs. They're going to be in a situation where John Lappy, their drummer, is going to have to scale down his big drum kit to fewer things: a snare drum and hand percussion. Their guitar player, Matt, is going to have to go from electric to acoustic. And so they're going to come meet. This is the beauty of this, is that these people who come as guests, they get to stretch out a bit, and they get to dip their toe into the water a little bit.
So who picks the songs?
That's what we'll do, is we'll send them suggestions, and then sometimes they'll fire stuff back to us. To have the soprano come in
the November show. You're having the soprano Jean Leonard.
Yes, and to have Jean come in,
who's part of Albany Pro Musica.
Well, she is sung with Albany Pro Musica and
Musicians of
Malwick and some other things, but she is the one who's stepping out and should get all the credit, because she this is a woman who's willing to step out of her comfort zone and do this, and God bless her for it. It's wonderful, and magic things can happen, and that's the beauty of front porch music. You can have these sort of train wrecks, you can, but when it clicks, it's just so wonderful.
But this is your 8th year, so I'm sure it's been.
Oh yeah, one of those shows came out so well that we got that we got a live album out of it.
So this one of your CDs that you'll have on sale at there.
Yeah, Heaven's Radio was recorded.
This is one of those shows.
Over at McCownville when we were doing the show over there, and it was just a magic night, and it all came together so well that we put an album out. So, but it's just fun, and especially the attitude of the audiences, that they want to join in and
one thing I'll say, you were telling me early, all 3 concerts, nothing's repeated.
Yeah,
they're totally different shows.
We put our own sort of challenges on things. Michael and I do, and so we can tell the people who are coming to the shows that there's not going to be a single song repeated over the course of them, which means probably about 60 or more songs will be performed over those 3 shows.
Now, will most of the songs, even though you were saying before, this Roots is an amalgamation of everything, will most of it have some kind of gospel-y, spiritual component?
Absolutely. That's
More-
one of the terms when we made the agreements with the church, is both McCownville when we started and now Hamilton Union, was that it would be songs that, as I said, are either spirituals or gospels or folk hymns, or even things that are taken from the old shape note singing, although we don't perform them as shape note numbers. And that is, again, we're working in collaboration with the church and their board and their membership and their pastors, and so I have to give great credit to Steve Butler over at McCownville United Methodist and to Stuart Pattison now where we are at Hamilton Union for embracing this as well. But yeah, that's part of our deal, is that when we go into their building, it's not going to be, it's going to be family friendly. It's going to be family friendly, I guess is what.
Let me ask you about this one album, because talk about spiritual.
Yeah.
You, Michael and Tom played at the library here, and they gave me one of these CDs. This is it's called Hard Trials. It's all, I guess you could say, classic spiritual gospel songs.
Yeah, spirituals, gospel songs.
Tell me the story behind this album, because I know
Well,
it's sort of.
that is our, strangely enough, it's from 2015, and that's our first studio album. And, we've been playing around, obviously, as I said, since 2007. So what was going on was my mother had a terminal illness, and that album was recorded during the time that she was ill and finished after she passed away. And it's just it's a theme album, not so much a concept album that it tells a real linear story, but it's a themed album, and it's about dealing with hard trials. It's about dealing with hardships, and there's songs on there that are about despair. There's songs on there that are about hope, and it's just about coming to terms. They always say the stages that you go through.
Well, let me just read. I'm playing this. It's a really good album. But, I've been listening to it. I was supposed to give it to the library, but I didn't.
I'll get you another copy. Don't worry.
But just people may have heard some of these songs. I Am a Pilgrim, In My Time of Dying, Hard Trials.
Yeah.
What Are They Doing in Heaven Today? Freight Train. That's a very famous song, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a rather in the folk canon. And what I should say, what people should understand about the music that Michael and I do, is we do have one sort of rule that we stick to, is that everything's got to be at least 50 years old. For the most part. That's a rule we stick to. And so that it's stuff that other people wrote or is in the public domain, because, like the spirituals, we don't know who the author or authors were with the spirituals. So it's what I can say about it is there's some beautiful songs there. There's some beautiful melodies there, and I'm saying that because I didn't write any of them, and Michael didn't write any of them.
But even though you're playing this kind of music, I think in some of your stuff in your interviews, you're not a ministry. Is that?
No. When we play the gospel music, we come at it from the point of view of American history and American musical history, and certainly what's interesting to study is that different denominations had different approaches to music.
But some have the same songs.
Some of the same songs and perform very differently. There's certain songs that if you were going to hear, if you heard it, you might hear the same song in an Episcopal church and in a Baptist church, and it might sound terribly, terribly different. And so it's always interesting to Michael and I. I used to be a wedding photographer, and so I've been in a lot of different denominations, churches. But you have had denominations in the past that said, okay, we're only going to assign these people to sing, and they're the choir, and they're going to sing. There's other denominations that let everybody sing. There's other denominations that say we're only going to have organ or piano. Other denominations say we're going to have the drums, we're going to have the bass, we're going to have electric guitar. So even sticking with that whole realm of music created by American Christians, you've got incredible range of stuff there. And of course, my favorite genre of music personally is the spirituals, the songs that came out of slavery. I just think they're so powerful and so melodic, and so
well they've lasted all these hundreds of
and that's an oral tradition thing, and that's those were people who were not allowed to learn how to read or write in many cases, let alone read or write music. But they came up with these tremendous songs in the oral tradition and just passed them along generation to generation by ear until they...
And most of the ones on this one are...
There's a good number of spirituals on there. But I will also say, as long as we're sitting in the town of Colonie, there is a song on there by the Shakers, by the Watervliet Shakers. It's called Fall on the Rock. And so there's a little local flavor in there as well.
So I'm going to just mention this one more time, and then you're going to play a song for us. So that's the third Friday charity concert series, Hamilton Union Presbyterian Church, 2291 Western Ave out in Guilderland, 7 o'clock, Friday, September 15th, Friday, October 20th, and Friday, November 17th. Each one benefits a different charity, local charities, which we'll be happy to get.
And again, no admission charge.
No admission, but
just you're free to drop some money in the
very
bowl.
good. So why don't we end with, what are you going to be playing?
I think we should play Fall on the Rock,
Okay.
the local song. We're going to play that local Shaker song.
The Shaker song. Okay, so here's Tom to sing with Fall on the Rock.
Fall on the Rock. Fall on the rock and be broken. Low, 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 low. For my holy word is spoken. Low, 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 low. Fall on the rock and be broken. Low, 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 low. For my holy word is spoken. Low, 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 low. Lie beneath the raging billows. Low, 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 low. Twist and wave and bend like willows. Low, 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 low. Lie beneath the raging billows. Low, 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 low. Twist and wave and bend like willows. Low, 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 low. Low,